Beautiful night here in St. Louis as we get you set for baseball. Game number 2 as the Cardinals play host to the Atlanta Braves, and over 40,000 expected tonight for the giveaway of the AT&T World Championship lapel pin. 2 hours ago, Lance Berkman stretching and running in the outfield. His return from the DL is very close. And with Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Welcome to Cardinals baseball. Very good start for the Cardinals this year in the first 6 weeks, Rick, and in many ways defined by the long ball.
Well, we knew this would be a team, Dan, that ran more, and they are doing that. But the home run has also shown up. Matt Carpenter, one of 4 Cardinal home runs. Beltran almost had 3 home runs. Alan Craig also contributing. So the Cardinals have hit a lot of home runs this year, but Jason Hayward, the big home run, the Schnucks difference maker, last night, he hit the game-winning 2-run home run in the 12th.
It's a pair of right-handers tonight. Beachy going for Atlanta, and the former Brave, Adam Wainwright, the Georgia native for St. Louis. The men on the mound. A look at those two when we come back. Team that drafted him, the Atlanta Braves. It's part of our Toyota Keys to the Game. And Adam against Atlanta, 6-0. And recently returning from surgery, Rick, he's been much better. When the calendar turned to May, Adam Wainwright went up a couple of notches. He has beaten the Pirates and the Astros. 2 7-inning outings for Adam Wainwright. The strikeout total's high. The curveball much better, Dan. And his velocity is coming back as well. So it's Adam Wainwright getting the start for St. Louis. Beachy gets the start for Atlanta. A look back at Tony La Russa and why it was important to retire number 10 last night with Jim Hayes. successes here in St. Louis would still be fresh in the minds of the fans. With a look at 10 reasons why retiring number 10 last night was the right move, here's Jim Hayes.
When Tony La Russa was hired by the Cardinals, he chose to wear the number 10, symbolizing his team's drive to their 10th championship. Tony did lead the Cardinals to their 10th World Series title and went ahead and brought home number 11 as well. Here are 10 reasons why Tony deserved to join the other legends wearing the birds on the bat. La Russa once used 10 pitchers in a game that meant nothing in the standings, but it meant everything to Tony, a testament to La Russa's will to win every game. Tony led the Cardinals to the playoffs 9 times in his 16 years, winning an NL Best 50 playoff games. La Russa's Redbirds, with their backs against the wall, played 26 games in September of 2011 and lost only 8 of them. From Stan Musial's retirement to La Russa's hiring, the Cardinals won only 7 division titles. Tony, he matched that total with 7 outright titles in just 16 seasons. During the 2011 NLCS, no Cardinal starter made it to the 6th inning during any of the 6 games. But Tony made 28 pitching changes, and the relievers he used allowed only 6 earned runs all series. The 2006 Cardinals were just 5 games above 500, but somehow they made the playoffs, beat the Mets, and beat the heavily favored Tigers in 5 games. During Tony's tenure in town, the Cardinals won the 4th most games in baseball, trailing only the Yankees, Braves, and Red Sox. Under Tony's watch, the Cardinals raised 3 more pennants, most in the National League since he was named manager. Tony's 2 World Series titles were nothing short of miraculous, considering the 2 teams that won were 2 teams that no one expected to win. Tony retired as the all-time winningest manager in franchise history, simply the most successful skipper St. Louis has ever seen.
First pitch comes your way next. Midwest is brought to you by Smooth Bush Beer and Easy Drinking Bush Light. By your Mid-America Chevy dealers, the #1 selling brand in St. Louis. Find us at stlchevy.com. By Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers, #1 for quality tires and expert auto service. And by Steak and Shake, just no equal. Plaza of Champions, just outside of Busch Stadium. Well over 40,000 here tonight, and glad you're with us for Game 2 between Atlanta and St. Louis. And a look at the Braves lineup. Michael Bourne, who tore up Cardinal pitching last night, will lead it off. Then Martin Prado and Freddie Freeman finished second in the Rookie of the Year balloting a year ago. Uggla, McCann, and Jones. Then Hayward, Pasternicki, and Brandon Beachy. Adam Wainwright gets the start for St. Louis.
And as we've mentioned, Dan, the Braves were the ones that drafted Adam Wainwright. He was a star of the future for them. They traded him, and he has pitched very well against Atlanta. 6-0 in his career, and he is on the upswing. He's been getting plenty of run support. His fastball's back and his curveball's back.
The defense behind Adam tonight. Let's start with the outfield. Out and left, it's Holiday, Jay in center, and Beltran. What a night last night. He's in right field. Freeze is in there getting the start at third for Kyle. Green and Craig along the infield. And Yadier Molina is behind the plate. Around the Horn is brought to you by Dobbs. The trade at the time, really a game changer when you think about it for St. Louis. Ray King, serviceable lefty out of the bullpen. Jason Marquis, the record of 42 wins, 37 losses. But the big one right there for St. Louis, Adam Wainwright closed out the 2006 World Series.
And still going.
And there's a strike to Michael Bourne. Michael Bourne is hitting .326. No home runs. 7 RBIs and the great speed that he possesses. Wally Bell is calling the balls and strikes. Brian Knight at first. Mike Winters at second. He's the crew chief. And Mike Mulchinski is down at third. What have you seen from Adam Wainwright that leads you to believe that we're starting to see the Wainwright prior to surgery?
About 2 miles per hour faster on his fastball, a little more hop to it. He's also attacking the strike zone with a lot of confidence. He's pitching as if he doesn't expect anybody to hit him, which I think is an indication of his confidence in his stuff. Curveball much sharper. When he got hurt in April, Dan, it was often on his cutter that he would leave out in the middle of the plate.
Works from the first base side of the rubber, and a 2-2 pitch. Breaking ball, then a ground ball to the right side. Tough play here by Green, not in time. You have the speed of Michael Bourne. Right there, you're really in between on what to do if you're Alan Craig. Whether to go after that because of the speed of Bourne. And this is the Plaza Tire Service Exmo cam, and our replay as Green made a good effort here.
Very athletic, but no chance to get Bourne. Now you've got to worry about the stolen base potential. 11 for 15 on the season. Bourne is 4th in the National League in stolen bases.
Led the major leagues in 2011 with 61. Here's Martin Prado, the left fielder.
One of the confident runners, too, on the base pass. He just, you'd almost, Lou Brock likes to use the word arrogant. Vince Coleman uses that word as a base runner. You've got to just believe you can steal a base against anybody, and they actually teach that when they get a chance to talk to young base runners.
That's a foul ball. Because of the early start, sun shining into right field. It is a very tough sun field for the right fielder. So you get a look at Bourne's numbers. The 11 steals that you spoke of, but right field and right center in that sun until about 6:45 or so.
Certain plays for the second baseman as well. We can see the sun shining off the glasses of Tyler Green.
In the hole and a base hit. First 2 have reached. Former Brave Rafael Furcal could not come up with this.
Perfectly placed again. Just 2 seeing eye hits for Atlanta. Wainwright gets him to hit the ball on the ground, but no result.
Big Freddie Freeman in his second season. 6'5", 240-pound first baseman. Second-round pick in 2007, and a chance to do some early damage here for Atlanta. We saw last night, first inning issues that Yadier Molina had with 2 pass balls, and Rick, only the second time he's ever done that in his career. The other was back in 2005. Remember lefty Carmen Kelly? He was on the mound for a couple of those.
I do.
Oh, and 2.
We talk a lot about Alan Craig in his batting stance and how it makes him vulnerable to a certain pitch. Freddie Freeman does something you don't teach hitters as well. He wraps the bat around his head, and that too makes for a long swing. You see the bat actually coming behind his shoulder. That's called wrapping it, and that makes the swing path a little bit longer. Typically, it's again not something you teach, but it just depends on what you do with your trigger to get in the proper position as the pitch is coming to the plate. But again, you would not want to emulate this if you're a 12-year-old just learning how to hit.
1 ball and 2 strikes.
Not arguing with the results, though. Good rookie season, 283, 6 home runs, and a ton of RBIs at 27 in the early going.
The 21 home runs that he hit last year, most he had ever hit in any professional season. Now he's looking at a 2-ball, 2-strike pitch from Wainwright. You'd have to figure, and Adam has said this much, that going against his former team, the team that he grew up cheering for from that area, that you have a little extra going tonight against the Atlanta Braves.
Probably some emotion, certainly history. A lot of success, too.
Bases are loaded.
A rare walk for Adam Wainwright, the Cardinal pitching staff. The best in the National League as far as walks are concerned. Only 75 walks now as a club, which is far and away the best in the National League. Part of the reason the starters have been so successful, the bullpen's good, is they're just not walking very many batters.
Well, we talked about it last night. These teams would be beat up in their bullpens because of the length of that game. And right now, Mike Matheny is asking Adam Wainwright to give him some productive innings tonight. 56 2/3 innings in April for the bullpen, 3rd fewest. But here in May, the 5th most in baseball. So that bullpen is taxed just a bit. Uggla with tremendous power. He has 5 home runs, number 5 last night. Bourne with a single. Prado followed that with the base hit to left. The walk to Freeman, and now Uggla in the hole, 0-2. Hit it off the facade, the 3rd deck. For home run number 5 last night. Two and 2. Crowd a bit restless. It's a huge crowd tonight.
I was going to use the word tense. It's almost, there's a nervous tension right here at the ballpark. Knowing what the Braves did to the Cardinals last night, extra innings, bullpen kind of shallow, and Adam Wainwright struggling here in the 1st. Hoping for something good to happen right here on the 2-2.
Here it comes. Popped up to the right side, and Beltran will give it a look, as well as Craig. We talk about power, and this guy has got it.
That's a 444-foot home run. It's the longest home run by an opponent here at Busch Stadium, and Dan Uggla did it. We saw his power again last night. He's kind of an all-or-nothing guy, and this was all.
Uggla's really had an interesting career because he spent 5 years never getting above AA with Colorado. Then he was a Rule 5 guy, picked up by the Marlins, made an all-star team, and then he gets traded after some productive years with the Marlins here to the Atlanta Braves and gets a $60 million+ extension. And that's a walk, and it's 1-0. Back-to-back walks for Adam Wainwright, 1-0 Atlanta. RBI for Uggla, his 21st.
Wainwright went with the curveball on 3-2 and just missed. As we look at it again on the replay, tries to come through the front door. He kind of left it hanging a bit on the inside half, and the late break was just a little bit too late. And it was a good call by the home plate umpire, Wally Bell.
Now Brian McCann. Bases loaded, still nobody out. Strike one. Wondered about the carryover effect for the Atlanta Braves after they finished up last year down the stretch 8-18. First 2 weeks, rough start. Since then, playing some of the best baseball in the major leagues.
Braves are always a team you can't count out. I mean, year after year, they just figure out a way. There's certain veterans on this team that are just good players. Chipper Jones, Brian McCann.
Here's a 1-1. What about their farm system too, Rick, and the type of young players they produced year after year to fill the gaps?
That's another reason. You lose a player for whatever reason. He's older. You have to trade him away. He's a free agent. You've got somebody else to take his place.
Here's a 2-1.
I think their shortstop's a good example of that. Alex Gonzalez is as good a fielder as we see, and as far as shortstops are concerned, and a lot of people in Atlanta were wondering why they let him go. It really wasn't that expensive, but the reason was they had a young guy, Tyler Pasternicki, who's ready to go.
Here's a 2-2. Just got a piece. Both these catchers, McCann and Molina, two of the best in baseball, using the hockey mask. McCann, one of the last catchers not to go with that mask, but now has tailored his game to use that. Some believe that initially when that hockey mask came out, allowed for less protection. More concussions on foul tips. There's a guy that knows about that. It's Mike Matheny. 3-2 now here on Brian McCann. And that's a walk. That's 3 in a row. 2-0 lead for the Braves, and not the start we envisioned.
Just a bit high. And Adam hasn't really shown that he is commanding the strike zone. He's missing just by a little bit, but really can't fault Wally Bell for this. He's just missing. Frustrating if you're Adam Wainwright, but he hasn't been able to establish his control yet.
All three of the runners reaching via the walk. Nice round of applause again for Chipper. Switch hitter, batting .305, 5 home runs. He's driven in 22, and he can do some damage here in the first inning. Chipper Jones, 20th year in the major leagues. Broke in back in 1993. First overall pick in 1990.
Saw Chipper play his first year in the minor leagues, was coaching in that league. We had a young player on our team named Manny Ramirez.
He's pretty good too.
He was pretty good, but when we would play the Braves, those two You could just, I mean, you didn't have to be a genius if you were a scout in the stands to say those two guys are big leaguers.
The 0-2. Taken for a ball. Wainwright grew up watching Chipper Jones and those championship teams of the Atlanta Braves.
Does not have the feel for his curveball right now. He's fighting it.
Big strikeout there. You have to go all the way back to 2007, the last time that Wainwright had a bases loaded walk. And that's the only other time. And Ricky's done that a couple of times already here in the first inning. Double play, though. He gets out of it with not as much damage as you might expect.
Now, if you're in the Atlanta dugout, what are you saying? What we say when a good pitcher on the other team is struggling in the first, you better get him while you can, because if Wainwright goes back out there for the second and third and finds that curveball, that may be all we get. I guarantee you that's what the Braves are thinking. They know they're 0-6 against Adam Wainwright.
Jason Hayward broke in as a 20-year-old. Struggled in his sophomore campaign. What will he do this season? 0-2. He homered last night to give the Braves a win.
Oddly for Wainwright, 7 first pitch strikes in a row here in the first inning, despite all the walks.
He's got Hayward 0-2. Bases loaded. Hayward, one of 3 for the Braves that are 22 years or younger in age, that infield or everyday lineup. Big strikeout back to back. And that's 2 in the inning, 2 in the game. And here's the aforementioned shortstop, Pasternicky. A little better there.
Much sharper break. Really been rolling it off almost off the side of his hands. You could just see it kind of staying out to the right and not breaking down sharply, and that last one certainly did. It's just a feel, and you're really talking about, Dan, a 1/10 of an inch, an 1/8 of an inch, something like that. I mean, it's very small difference. It's a feel, and I guess the real amazing thing is how people can be so precise on it the times that they are. Not that he loses it like this, but how can you be so precise for so long?
Here's the 0-1 pitch. Pasternicky last year was at AA, jumped up to AAA, and in 117 games split between the 2 stops, hit .314. Also has the element of speed in his game. He had 27 stolen bases. That's a strike on the outside corner, 1-2.
A little sharper cutter there from Wainwright.
Scott Linebrink, Cardinals will see him throw hopefully this week. Little bouncer to Freeze. It could have been a lot worse. 3 walks in the inning, 2 runs allowed. Cardinals coming up in the home half of the first. Jay Green and Adam Wainwright. Cardinals faced a pretty good pitcher here tonight, young right-hander Brandon Beachy.
He's off to a very good start, 3-1. He throws hard, 92 to 94, an overpowering curveball. And what he's learning at an early age is that it's okay to pitch to contact. They want him to go deeper into games, and that's exactly what he's doing. So he's giving many more innings to Freddie Gonzalez than he did last year, and that's certainly helping out the bullpen. And he's become and could become a premier pitcher in the National League.
Prado, Bourne, and Hayward in the outfield. Jones, Pasternicki, Uggla, and Freeman along the infield. Behind the plate, Brian McCann. And Around the Horn is brought to you by Dobbs. Admittedly, he says he is a perfectionist. And he set the Braves franchise record for strikeouts in a season by a rookie since 1900 at 169. But like you're talking about, Rick, he tries to make that perfect pitch. And instead of worrying about that, his goal this year has been to go deeper into games. And a byproduct of fewer strikeouts is ground ball outs, fly ball outs, early in counts, and going deeper.
And a 4-pitch pitcher, a fastball, curveball are the best two. Changeup's good. Developing a slider to go along with it.
He's down this year in that strikeouts per 9, just over 6. And that's at the knees, 1 and 2.
Braves know how to develop pitchers, don't they?
They know how to develop talent. Remember this guy, too, Rafael Furcal. He made that jump from A-ball to the major leagues for the Atlanta Braves. And he bounces it to first. And Freeman is there to step on the bag for out number 1. ERA leaders and some surprising names on this list. Dempster, great ERA, not much of a record to show for it. Then Johnny Cueto, Lance Lynn, Ted Lilly, and Brandon Beachy, 1.62.
Some names you're used to seeing on that list, not there. Johnson, Miami, Lincecum, Halladay, Carpenter,
Wainwright. Here's Carlos Beltran. Last night, pair of home runs. 33rd time he's done that. Multi-home run games. 33 times in his career, and already this season, Rick, he's done it 3 times.
And very good production from both he and Furcal at the top of the lineup. You have guys that are up among the league leaders in scoring runs. Yeah, Beltran's hitting with power, and he's hitting well, but he and Furcal both scoring runs in bunches. And batting 1-2, normally the Cardinals have gotten off to leads. Tonight they're going to have to come back.
2-1. Beltran, Hamilton, Cargo of Colorado, the multi-home run games. What a start for Josh Hamilton.
Yeah, one of those games should count at least twice for Hamilton, don't you think?
It's unbelievable. Three and 1 here on Carlos Beltran.
You think about the start that Matt Kemp had, and we were talking about him quite a bit in the early going, and he was just very dangerous. We'll be seeing him in Los Angeles next weekend. Excited to see him play, but Carlos Beltran has now caught him in home runs. That's just how good he's been the last couple of weeks.
Cardinals went back-to-back with home runs last night. They've done that 5 times already this year. Beltran was a single away from the cycle last night. Spoils that pitch and hits it out of play.
And a foot away from having 3 home runs.
Good point. The triple that he hit out to center that got away from Bourne.
So would a player rather hit for the cycle or hit 3 home runs?
Really took some off that pitch at 73 miles an hour. And that's the first strikeout for Beachy.
Christian Day at the ballpark, June 30th. Will be at Busch Stadium. The Cardinals will be hosting the Pirates that day. Mike Matheny is going to be the featured speaker. Clint Hurdle will also be speaking after the game, as well as a number of the Cardinal players and Pirates players, and Clint's looking forward to that. So is Mike. And you can go to the Cardinals website for more information. I will be emceeing, and I look forward to it. It's always a fun program after the ball game. Everybody's invited.
Here's Matt Holliday. Rick, he has reached in 40 straight games against the Atlanta Braves. Walk, hit by pitch, base hit. Hits it out to left. And it's caught. A 1-2-3 inning for Beachy. They'll lead it off when we move to the second. With you wherever you may be on the road this summer, and you'll get all the games in HD. Cell phone, computer, MLB.TV. Awful lot of pitches in that first inning for Adam Wainwright.
So many, in fact, it's a single inning career high for Adam. 39 pitches in the first inning. That's 3 innings worth of work, typically.
And you wonder about tonight, the availability of some of the pitchers in the bullpen for Mike Matheny. If you get to that save situation, Jason Mott last night, 2 innings, and that was just the 5th time that he's done that in his career. I would probably say off limits.
Last resort, and maybe off limits. Zepchinski and Boggs both just pitched an inning. They should be fine, although Mitch threw quite a few pitches in his inning. Victor Marte just pitched to 1 batter. Salas would be available, and Romero both. And I don't think it's really at a problem stage yet, Dan, but if you have a couple of games like last night, or if Adam is not able to get back on track, then you might have a problem in a day or two.
That's out of play. 2-2.
We talked yesterday, Dan, about how the Cardinals in the past have employed that extra reliever. Kind of goes back and forth, up and down from AAA. When the innings get tight at the big league level, you have somebody who's in AAA, but they're not pitching a lot, just in case the big league club needs them. And Eduardo Sanchez would be one of those guys you'd think about.
Sure. Strikeout for Wainwright, his 3rd of the night. That's how we start the top of the second. Some of the players were giving Chipper Jones a little trouble yesterday with the tin that's etched in the grass out in center field. It's fading now, but that was in honor of Tony La Russa. And players are saying, look at this. These guys in St. Louis must really like you. Final weekend for Chipper here in town. That bunt will roll foul.
Careful when you pick on a veteran. They know all the tricks.
That's right. You don't mess with a guy like Chipper Jones.
You might win the battle and lose the war. Seen that happen quite a few times.
I bet. Oh, Chipper was saying what a classy move it was, and he was very surprised by the reception that he got yesterday, because remember when he came up, Ricky had runners in scoring position and Molina called time, and fans gave him a wonderful ovation. He said he was very moved by it. 1 ball, 1 strike. We're at the top of the lineup in Michael Bourne. Here's a ground ball that's hit to second. Green with it. Bourne is 1 for 2. It's 5 in a row set down by Adam. Martin Prado, the left fielder for the Atlanta Braves. Last year he followed an all-star season, hit a career low 260. Missed a number of weeks with staph infection. He also moved to the outfield. And some believe that transition may have affected his offense a bit as he moved to left. Quickly, 0-2. I'm sure Atlanta, to an extent, feels that they caught a break with Eric Hinsky not being suspended after what took place last night when he was ejected. There's a fly ball into right, and Beltran will put it away.
He did throw that.
Talk about that when we come back. Remember, Joe Torre was in the house last night. Midwest is brought to you by MyKiaSt.Louis.com. And right now at Jack in the Box, you can try the new Chicken Club Combo for just $4.99 plus tax. Aggie Sirianni, year after year, always wearing that Cardinal red. The nicest lady you'll find at the ballpark.
Always cheery. Something good to say. Loves all the people that come in, too. You have to if you do that job. Have to love the people.
So when you come into Busch Stadium and you walk through Aggie's lobby, that's the name of the lobby. Yep. Aggie's lobby, VIP media entrance. Give her a big hug, kiss, smile, handshake, whatever it may be, but she'll reciprocate. Big old hug and say hello to you. Absolute sweetheart. One ball and 2 strikes on Alan Craig. Going back to last night and Hinske, he was frustrated over the call that there was not an appeal down to third. Replay showed that it was a bad call. Threw his bat, as you mentioned, Rick, and there's a strikeout of Craig. And the third base umpire tonight was behind the plate with an erratic strike zone, to say the least, in Game 1. Joe Torre is working for Major League Baseball on plays like that. And so he was in the house and saw it. But you would expect a fine, but no suspension.
Well, maybe Joe was busy socializing with all of the friends of Tony that were here at the ballpark, and maybe he missed it. It was a little odd that there's maybe not more repercussions from what Hinske did. There's the pitch. He didn't swing, and he's going to let the home plate umpire know he didn't swing in no uncertain terms. But it was really the toss of the bat that came later. And, you know, I'm not rooting for that end to get suspended, frankly, but you would expect that would warrant something.
And again, Hinske, his complaint was, why not get help on that play and ask for an appeal down at third? 2-0 here on David Freese. Did not start last night.
Hard to suspend a guy who was right.
Good point.
Not that they think that way, but human nature.
Freese had a chance to win it late last night. Bases loaded, 1 out, bounced into a double play. It will be his bobblehead tomorrow. And still a handful of seats remain. Weather should be ideal for Game 3. Braves and Cardinals and the Freese bobblehead.
Mentioned Eduardo Sanchez as one of those guys that's pitching in AAA, Dan. 6.08 ERA for Sanchez in 14 innings. There's not a real clear reliever dominating at the AAA level right now. He does have 6 saves, but that may be an issue 3, 4, 5 days down the road, depending on what happens with the Cardinal pitching.
Rick, as you know, too, sometimes you'll see players called up and the numbers would not warrant the call up, but if they see something they like or previous experience or maybe just a change of scenery, they say, now we're going to give him a chance and let's see what we can get out of him.
And the 6 ERA could have come with 6 runs in one inning of one of his games, which is certainly possible. Sanchez has a lot of upside. We saw some of that last year.
Filthy stuff.
Oh.
Molina cranks one out to center field. Bourne with his good speed on the move and makes the catch. He's won a Gold Glove out there in center. Tracks that one down and takes the hit away from Yadier Molina.
Outstanding jump by Bourne. He's not in the picture, then he is, and then he's settling under it.
That saves a run more than likely. That speed. John Jay, strike 1.
We mentioned it in Game 1 of this series. The Braves are really playing him extremely to pull on the infield, giving him that hole on the left side.
Here's the 0-1. Make it 0-2. Talk about Brandon Beachy and this combination with McCann. And the thought is that McCann is a very good defensive catcher. We know he can hit, but also Beachy is fairly quick to the plate. I mentioned, Rick, before about the mask that McCann is using. He's gone with the hockey style mask. And you might recall a couple of years ago he had issues with his vision. And he says this mask has actually helped him in that regard. Also on those hot days down in Atlanta, he said this is not as cumbersome, not as hot. most catchers are wearing that mask that you see right there. Game has changed just a bit, huh?
Still a hard job to do any way you look at it.
You bet. There's a strikeout of Jay. Cardinals will strand a runner. It'll be Freeman, Uggla, and McCann coming up. $5K, myself, Pat Parrish. You just saw Pat there. Now, he's a real racer. I mean, he's a guy that can run. He did that in college at Drake. And Pat's finish time was 22:11. That's Kayla, Fox Sports Midwest girl. I'm in the back, Rick. I'm in the
I was looking
back.
for you,
yeah,
Dan.
Yeah. That 22:11 was just not quite my time.
Well, I was in a easy chair watching golf, so you did more than I did.
It's a great cause, and Pat was a runner at Drake University. Congratulations to Pat. He was one of the top finishers today. Nearly 6,000 runners, so nicely done. And a lot of money raised. Freeman is the first out. Jim Hayes joins us here in the booth for inning number 3 as Uggla digs in. He picked up an RBI walk. And he looks at a strike. And really the big news concerning the Cardinals is health right now, Jim, and in particular with Lance Berkman.
Well, Lance was expected to come off the DL today. At least it was hoped. But didn't happen. John Mozeliak, the general manager, saying probably tomorrow for Lance. Lance has been doing just about everything from taking BP to running full speed. Today he was running the bases at full speed, but I think they just wanted to be cautious with him and give him one more day. Lance said, I'm ready to play. I could play tonight if they wanted me to. So expect him back tomorrow, and then the Cardinals have a decision to make.
You always wonder about with Berkman or any injury, Jim, is it's not just can he play tonight, but if he plays tonight, can he play tomorrow and the next night and the next night? You're really looking for somebody to come back and be ready to be in for the long haul.
Extra bases here for Uggla. He does not get cheated. Dug out of the corner by Holiday. And it's a one-out double for Uggla. And the first base hit since back in the first, and the second hitter for the Atlanta Braves.
Pitch location on the corner. He just drops the head. Uggla is one of those guys. We talked about it. When he's hot, you have to be careful with him.
Brings in McCann. Brian McCann, 5 Silver Slugger awards as the catcher of the Atlanta Braves. 6-time All-Star. Little floater out to shallow left, drops in for a hit. Uggla read it perfectly, and that makes it 3-0 Atlanta. RBI for McCann, his second of the evening. He's now up to 20.
There's the read off the bat. Uggla looks out to left field, sees how deep Holiday is, and knows that there's no way he can cover that much ground on the blue pit the other way. So Brian McCann picks up an RBI base hit. Not the best hit of his career, but he's given his club a 3-0 lead.
Strike to Chipper Jones as Uggla had to read this. Holiday, he knew.
And Holiday put up his glove as if he was going to catch that ball, which is what you teach outfielders, to try to deke the runner the best you can, but he wasn't buying it.
Amazingly, Chipper Jones with 20/15 vision. And his parents, guys, have never had glasses, and they're in their 60s. Something as simple as having that kind of vision and what it can mean at this level.
It means a lot more than we talk about.
You bet. Blocked by Molina. Wow, great play. And staying at first, that's McCann.
There are times when a player, especially a player gets older, as we all know, you get into your upper 30s or getting close to 40 and your vision's not what it used to be. That, you know, one of the things they'll do, they'll work on your swing, and are you losing your strength, and at some point, and I know the Cardinals did it with Willie McGee towards the end of his career, they sent him to an eye doctor. They said, you know, is his vision as good as it was when he was younger? And of course, in everybody's case, it isn't.
Jones to the right side and a base hit. That's 3 consecutive hits following the ground out. Chipper Jones is 1 for 2, and it brings in Hayward.
Pitch up just a little bit. If that pitch is down more, he might top it. It's an outside pitch. He pulls to the right side. Good effort by Tyler Green. It's hard to keep Chipper Jones down.
Dan, you were mentioning the number 10 that was carved into the outfield grass. There was some discussion within the Cardinal organization whether they should leave that. You mentioned it'll be Chipper's last game at Busch Stadium on Sunday, and they decided no, he'll have his day, but they're going to carve that 10 right out of there. So they did mow it down. It looks like it's faded, but they wanted to get that out of there. That number 10 is for Tony.
Here's the 0-1 pitch, and Hayward hits a high fly ball into right center. Catch is made by Beltran. Good teaching point there, Rick, to see a guy that is a former center fielder make that catch instead of Jay. And if Jay makes that catch, he's got to throw across his body back into third. And with this, you've got the momentum of Beltran going forward.
And he's also screaming to Jay that he's got it. There's communication that's going on. And, you know, for fielders to communicate on the field when there are 40,000 people in the ballpark, you better be loud and you better be clear in what you're saying. And Beltran clearly yelling to Jay that it was his. And you're right, the angle much better for the right-handed throwing right fielder than the left-handed throwing center fielder who was moving towards the third base line.
Pastor Nicky is 0 for 1. 2 down and 2 on. Check swing and a strike. Out of 17 batters tonight, just moments ago, was the first pitch of an at-bat that was not a strike.
Talk about that stat as being incredibly important for a pitcher, and 70% a barometer that if you get over 70, you're generally going to have a good game. Well, tonight is not a good indicator of what Adam Wainwright is doing.
2-2.
Or maybe you would say that if he wasn't throwing first pitch strikes, it would be worse.
Well, you're talking about that with Beachy too. You know, first pitch strikes being ahead in the count, lowering pitch counts. Something he did not do a year ago, but did have the high strikeout totals. Here's a 2-2 pitch. 2 outs, 2 on. The next from Adam Wainwright.
You do a cumulative batting average of every count in baseball. You will see very clearly that when a pitcher is ahead in the count, he has a tremendous advantage on a hitter. I mean, in aggregate, all pitchers all the time, if you add them all into a pile, and if they're behind in the count, the average goes up. We're talking about difference between 400 and 200. So it's a huge difference.
This is the fourth walk by Adam Wainwright. Carsoup.com/Cardinals to send us your email the booth questions. And I'm sure many of the questions, Jim, rolling in are concerning Chris Carpenter and his health. Where do we stand right now with Carp?
Well, John Mozeliak was talking about Carp before the game, saying that there is progress, that Carpenter is feeling good. That's the good news. He said in terms of starting a throwing program, which is really a starting point to the recovery, mid-June. And a possibility that maybe by mid-July, Carpenter could be back pitching with the Cardinals.
There's a look at Berkman, who was running and stretching prior to the game, running the bases. Here's the 0-1 to Brandon Beachy. At about 1 o'clock today, here at the ballpark, that's Chris Carpenter. And Rick, he's the kind of guy that it doesn't take him that long once he gets the okay, and Limerank working out with him. But once he gets the okay, he's ready to roll. There's a strikeout. We'll talk more about Carp when we come back. Also an update on Kyle Loesch. Hopefully Berkman tomorrow. It's 3-0 Atlanta. Toyota Cardinals Live. It's Mother's Day, and the moments that he'll count down the 7 best. Sunday Sevens countdown. Just to finish our thought on Chris Carpenter, Rick, he's the kind of guy, it may take him 3 starts, not necessarily going that deep in those starts, and he's pretty much set to go.
Well, it's going to take him a shorter time than most, but I think you can't rush it even with Chris Carpenter. I think you have to deal with the age reality, although the one thing about the age, Dan, is you're not really worried about a 19-year-old kid and maybe messing up a 20-year career. I mean, obviously he's getting towards the end, and the point is you just want to get as much effectiveness out of Carpenter that you can get. And he is in good shape and he's working hard. But I guess I'm just really questioning how soon that's going to be. I'm a lot more I guess unconfident of his ability to be back right after the All-Star break. I think it'll be later than that.
Well, they're saying it could be. And one thing we know that Carpenter is nonstop conditioning. I mean, he is working hard, so that won't be an issue for him. But certainly it takes a long time to get to that level as a pitcher, and I understand that.
It's Tyler Green, first plate appearance, another start at second. It's Lance Lynn, 6-0 against Tommy Hanson tomorrow. Will come your way at 12:30. Monday, very good matchup. Westbrook and Dempster. Dempster, the ERA that's at 1.02 but winless, and again Lance Lynn 6-0, 1.40 ERA. Start time, by the way, for Monday against the Cubs is at 6:05. If you have a ticket for Monday, 6:05 is the start time. And then on Tuesday, we'll see Kyle Loesch trying to pick up his 6th win of the year. Injured his hamstring running the bases the series in Arizona. And Jim, where do we stand right now with Kyle?
Well, he threw a bullpen today and said that the hamstring issue is totally behind him. Though I do think he still has some bruised feelings, because after the game, Mike Matheny said he pulled his forgot to slide muscle, and Kyle Loesch wants that on the record that he didn't forget to slide. He couldn't because he had hurt his hamstring before it was time to slide.
Is he still using that bat that you helped him out with? And maybe for folks that don't know it, you can explain the story of the bat for Kyle Loesch.
Well, sometimes I can be a bit juvenile. I don't know if you're aware of that. And he was walking through the clubhouse, and I grabbed his bat and autographed it. And lo and behold, he accidentally grabbed it in a game when it was his turn to bat, and he walked. And he told me that in his last start, he used a different bat and got his base hit. So he'll use the bat that I signed when he either has to bunt or he needs to get on base via the walk.
And is he still using it? He still has it?
It's in the rotation. I don't think he goes to it all that often. He said he wanted to turn around and put it back in the rack, but it was too late.
3-2 is a broken bat and lifted out to deep left center, and the catch is made. That's a broken bat that carried to the track in left center field. Baseball
power.
bid.
Yeah, that's the power of Tyler Green right there. That bat, the whole handle almost went into the stands.
Here's Wainwright. Beachy, by the way, started this inning under 30 pitches for the ball game, and Adam now is approaching 80 already. And when you think about Adam Wainwright early season, Rick, you're talking about you'd love to see pitch counts lower. You'd love to see the innings that do pile up as a starter be, 6, 7, but not extended. And tonight, there's no way that you'd see a guy coming off of surgery like he is, and so important, pushed in any kind of way, and yet this bullpen is taxed a little bit.
Yeah, when you throw that many pitches in one inning, and as he did in the first inning, a career high for him, you're taxed already. And it doesn't matter whether the number 70, 80, 90, or 100, he's already thrown a lot of pitches under stress. You almost multiply those by 2 to begin with, and so it's already going to be kind of a type of a start where you're going to be watching him very carefully and make sure that he's in his proper mechanics. If he comes out of his mechanics at all, I think that's when you just have to go to the bullpen right away.
Top of the lineup in Rafael Furcal. Furcal grounded out his first time up. Two balls and no strikes. Braves talked about the addition of Bourne being, for them, essentially their first leadoff man since the days of Rafael Furcal, a true leadoff man. And remember, Furcal and what he did in spring, there was talk at the end of spring training that the Cardinals may drop him in the lineup because he wasn't hitting. They were looking at other players at the top of the lineup, but Furcal is more than made up for that, and he's got a 10-game hitting streak on the line, batting nearly 500 during that streak.
Really confident right now. Players see the baseball better at certain stretches, and he's certainly seeing it right now, but got that slow start at spring training based on a health issue, and he said he didn't worry about spring training. He knew what he had to go through to get back, and he has. Just took him a little extra time.
Count is full with 2 outs and nobody on for Furcal. That's a walk. When he first came up, and you remember, Jim, he was just an electrifying player, talking about Furcal, and because of the kind of havoc he could, cause on the base paths with his great speed and stolen bases.
And we've seen how important it is for the Cardinals when he gets on base to lead off a game. He had that stretch where he was doing it every single game, and some pop every once in a while. 30 career leadoff homers, if I recall correctly.
A 3-0 Atlanta lead. Here's Beltran, second time through the lineup now for Brandon Beachy. Beltran struck out swinging first time up.
Boy, you talk about a guy seeing the baseball.
One of the hottest hitters right now in the game. Kept in front by McCann. Beltran, no stranger to Atlanta with those years playing in the National League East with the Mets. Rick, you wonder about just getting out of New York and new lease on life for Carlos Beltran, too.
Yeah, it has hurt the careers of many a player playing there.
I mean, he's even said it, too. It takes a special man to, play there, thrive there day after day. 1-0 pitch. Good cut.
Dan, there's a lot of positives that go along with playing in New York, and you're going to get attention and you're going to get your share of praise and big contracts and all of that. And the Mets over the years have had some good ball clubs, but whether you're talking about New York, Philadelphia, Boston, those are just some of the cities that, from a player's point of view, you just know that it's about your performance 100% of the time. And if you are bad on a particular day, you're going to hear it from your home team. You're going to hear it from the press. It's going to be very harsh. And if you're not thick-skinned, it's very difficult to play there.
You grew up just outside the city, right?
I did. So you know how tough I can be and how harsh I can be.
Oh, he was in a suburb. He was nowhere near the city.
You're just a typical New Yorker.
In some ways.
No. Ricky's much more polite than the typical New Yorker.
The 2-1 is popped up by Beltran out to shallow center. Pasternicki puts it away. Jimmy, we'll see you on the postgame. Good job. It's 3-0 as we move to the fourth. Visit Mo.com to start planning your next Missouri getaway. The Arabia Steamboat Museum in Kansas City. Steamboat Arabia sank near Kansas City with 200 tons of cargo bound for towns in the West. Unique museum, it has it all. Featured in national television programs and magazines, numerous newspapers. Find out more. But Steamboat Arabia. Visit Mo.com.
Todd Worrell here at the ballpark. That's his son Jacob next to him, but one of his other sons, Josh, who played some minor league ball, Dan, was Brandon Beachy's college roommate.
Oh, is that right?
Indiana Wesleyan. So there's 12 Worrell folks here who are a little bit conflicted today because they're rooting for Brandon, and we saw him in college quite a bit, but of course their connection with the Cardinals is very powerful as well. Todd still helps out the Cardinals organization in a lot of ways. He helps out the team chaplain throughout the course of the year, and we see him at the ballpark quite a bit.
Here's the 0-2 pitch. Hop 2 for Kyle. One away. That's how we start playing the fourth. Bourne is 1 for 3. Brings in Martin Prado. The Braves had the collapse of the National League, Boston Red Sox in the American League. Atlanta goes 8-18 to finish up last year. And Freddie Gonzalez said in the offseason, first couple of months, obviously very difficult situation to deal with. You question yourself, what could I have done differently? What happened with us? What moves could I have done differently? And one of the things that Freddie said that he did is Tony La Russa and the Cardinals would catch them in the wild card, and then the rest was history. But he went back and asked a member of the Atlanta Braves PR department to go through articles, and he wanted to read some of the quotes by the individuals that played for him, you know, just to see what the mindset was of some of the players. And he said everybody was, in his mind, positive, ready to come back and try to erase what took place last year. Prado flies to his counterpart in left field.
You know, one of the dangers of looking back like that is you end up kind of trying to recreate the, you know, kind of the Monday morning quarterback kind of reality of, you know, what would we have done differently? Well, you know, you got more hits and you got more people out. I mean, that's the real answer. And, you know, as a manager, one of the things that you're going through in your head as your team has been winning all season, then gets into a tailspin, I don't want to change things drastically now because that's going to be like a panic. So I don't want to change my rotation. I don't want to change the batting order. I don't want to remove the closer because I want our team to continue to be positive. So you have that on one side, and you try to act as calm as you can on the outside so your players don't read your panic. And so I can't really fault Freddie Gonzalez. You know, the team just didn't play well, period.
One of the things that was questioned, though, was looking at Venters, O'Flaherty, Kimbrel, and just how much that trio pitched last year. And, Rick, to put it in perspective, they pitched in more games than Mariano Rivera ever did in a single season, and Trevor Hoffman, two of the great closers of all time. So the workload had piled up for those three, and some believe maybe did he ride him a little bit too much, but others say, hey, you got to go with the hot hand, and he did that, ran out of gas. Liner out to left. Holiday makes the catch.
So you don't use him earlier, and you lose 10 games earlier in the season.
Right.
What's the difference?
Right. 1-2-3 inning for Adam Wainwright. And still some seats available. Look at that, right on cue, taking that cut. David Freese tomorrow, his bobblehead. Cardinals.com, still some seats available. It should be a very special day for David. Looking forward to that. Curious move by Mike Matheny yesterday. After the off day, Freese was out of the lineup. But we forget at times still initially this season, baby steps along, so to speak, with the ankles and the various injuries that David has had. He's such a key part of the lineup, and you want to keep him healthy.
Well, he's been saying, and I'm talking about Mike Matheny now, he's been saying he needs to make sure he doesn't fall into the trap of not giving his regulars enough rest. And you don't need to rest them a lot. Just a day off now and again just helps you. It helps refresh you. Carlos Beltran had a day off when he was hot, and we all thought, uh-oh, what's he not doing in the lineup?
Fly ball into right. Long way to go for Hayward, and makes the catch.
But when Beltran came back after that off day, he didn't really miss a beat. Actually struggled for a day, I think, with his timing, but numbers still good. And I think it's good for a player every 3 to 4 weeks to get a day off. And I think that's kind of a pretty good schedule. And Mike said his problem is the Cardinals' schedule really odd for April and May. A high number of off days in April, so you didn't have to give people days off. Very low number of off days in May when players actually need them more. And so he had kind of a mindset of, I have to be creative about resting my guys, and they're not going to like it.
One out, 1 ball, no strikes on Craig. Alan Craig, first time up, struck out. Big gap in left center field. Mentioned it last night, Rick, that you watch Alan Craig and you watch the man on deck, David Freese, and from the opposition's point of view, tough to figure out exactly where you want to position your outfielders because of their power to the opposite way.
No doubt. Bourne is shading Craig the other way, as he should, and you also have to play deep. We've seen Craig's power the other way last week or so. He's hit a lot of balls hard, a couple of home runs that way. We mentioned that both Craig and Freese can turn on the ball too. If you throw a hanging off-speed pitch, they're going to turn on it. But the fastball, they'll let get deep into the strike zone before they pull the trigger on it, and they drive the ball to right.
Here's a 1-2. And a ground ball deep in the hole. It's short. Pasternicki gets up and fires. Makes it close. What a play out there at shortstop.
In my mind, I'm thinking, why is he throwing that ball? That's not wise. And then it ends up being a close play. So Pasternicki, by the time he stops sliding, he runs out of time to get Alan Craig, but he shows off his arm a bit. One of the reasons why the Braves were excited about this kid.
Now Freese with 1 out, runner at first.
Didn't really see the outfielders move at all between the Craig at bat and the Freese at bat. To your point.
First base hit for the Cardinals. That'll be erased with a double play. 6-4-3. No, they throw it away. It's an error, and David will wind up in scoring position. Taylor made double play. The second baseman, Uggla, threw it away. Not your prototypical second baseman with the power that Uggla hits for, and at times you'll get this.
Everything was smooth. Probably a ball that should have been dug out by Freeman, too. Not a real tough hop there. He just kind of didn't judge the hop very well on the throw. Dan Uggla really maligned with his defense, Dan. A lot of Braves guys say that he's a lot better than folks think because he makes a lot of the routine plays. I mean, he does make some errors, and we've highlighted that because of what he did in the All-Star game when he really had some nervous moments there, and he'd like to forget those. But watching him play on an everyday basis, he's talking to Terry Pendleton about him in spring training. He said, you know, he's not a bad second baseman. I wouldn't call him great, but he's much better than people think.
Came over from the Marlins for left-handed pitcher Mike Dunn, also Omar Infante. And the Braves signed him long-term. Yachty pops one foul out of play. Remember, Molina first time up. Hit one to deep center.
Nice visit with Terry before the game today. Terry was not at the ballpark yesterday. Didn't even realize he wasn't here. He was at his daughter's college graduation from the University of Georgia, his daughter Stephanie, and felt like he needed to be there. And he said, "You didn't notice I was gone? I'm hurt."
0-2 pitch. Molina strikes out. Cardinals pick up their first hit. Terry Pendleton, former MVP. Cardinals trailing by the score of 3-0. Been out hit 5-1 in this game, and walks have been an issue certainly tonight for Adam Wainwright. He's at 86 pitches. Wainwright is. You get around that 100 pitch mark, you start to wonder about any pitcher, but certainly a guy like Wainwright coming off of surgery. Uggla hammers one out to left for a base hit.
I think you just hope to get him through 5, Dan, and see if you've got 4 innings in your bullpen, and I think the Cardinals do.
Third time that Uggla's been aboard.
Been an interesting year for Adam Wainwright. Of course, we know he had a winless April, and how can you win a game when your team has 0 runs for you the entire month? All 4 of his outings, Cardinals didn't score a run. He also didn't pitch well. But in May, against the Pirates and the Astros, look at that run support. 10 runs and then 8. And so Wainwright 2-3, hoping to even his record here tonight. Cardinals are going to have to find some more of that offense that they've had in the last 2 outings.
Here's McCann. Uggla and McCann have reached base 5 times combined. One pitch to McCann. We're at Busch Stadium on this Saturday night. Gorgeous night for baseball. Dan, Rick, Jim with you. Pat and Al will have the post-game show. 2 balls, 1 strike. Chipper Jones on deck.
Dan, we talked about the challenge of the Cardinals starting to play games outside of their division. And they started that with the Arizona Diamondbacks, played well, swept that series in Arizona. But the National League West is actually, as a group, playing worse than the National League Central. It's really the East that you have to worry about. The Cardinals really getting their first real look at the National League East with the Braves.
That's a base hit into right. Uggla to second. And no throw from Beltran. Runners at the corners with nobody down. Just thinking right now about this bullpen, and McCann may be hurt down at first. But the Cardinals, you would have to think it's Salas, Romero ready to go here tonight. Zipchinski didn't work all that much, neither did Marte last night, so they'd be protected with those. What did McCann do here?
Well, he did it right at the plate. Looks like he might have turned an ankle a bit, but let me get my hit first. Kind of holding down close to his ankle or his shin. Did it right out of the box. You know, McCann, every time I see Brian McCann, I think about just that horrific moment in spring training when he had a foul ball that hit one of his coaches, Luis Salazar, and he ended up losing his eye as a result of that line drive. Kyle Loesch was actually on the mound for the Cardinals during that spring training game, and I was not at the game, but I know that Brian McCann could not finish his at bat. I mean, he was just so, as you would expect, distraught, and he just had a lot of moments of wondering, boy, I'm not sure I can do this. I mean, it's just a horrible thing. Luis Salazar, outstanding coach, and just was in the wrong place at the wrong time. There's the swing.
The left ankle. The backup is Ross. He's been around a long time. We saw him with Cincinnati. Now Chipper with runners at first and third. Nobody out. They really like him as a veteran presence in Ross and a good signal caller. Perfect for that backup role.
You'd like to have a backup catcher like that. You'd like to have a guy in your bullpen like that has some miles.
It's a ball in front. We've seen Molina kind of picking at the ball instead of blocking it last night and again tonight. You wonder if that's a byproduct of being hit where he was.
And you wonder if blocking the ball creates just a little more strain on his back of his hand by having to turn his wrist over. Maybe that motion is not as comfortable for him. So athletic behind the plate that maybe that's just kind of the best chance of getting the job done. There's that lazy curveball. We've seen it half dozen times from Wainwright today. It's breaking, Dan, but it's not sharp. It's just kind of floating towards the outside half against the left-handers. A little sharper there. Still not his A curveball.
Ouch. Chipper Jones 2 years ago with knee surgery. The 26th of March, spring training, he had knee surgery.
Fouled that off his right foot.
You know, he said before the year began, ouch, that he did not want to go out as some other greats had that were in Atlanta, namely Tom Glavine, who had 2 different stints with the Braves. He signed a big deal with the Mets, finished up that deal, won game number 300 of his career against the Cubs wearing a Mets uniform, and then was cut loose. He was released, and the other one was John Smoltz, who eventually signed with Boston, then St. Louis. And that misses outside, and Chipper said it was just very important to him to finish his career wearing the Braves uniform. His entire professional career spent in Atlanta, Georgia. Another walk, and the bases are loaded again. Activity in the Cardinals bullpen. Looks like Salas has gotten up. Here's Hayward.
I'm not sure what the upside is to going much longer with Adam Wainwright.
It's 5 walks. Looked to be a pretty good pitch called for ball 1. And here's Hayward, who has struck out and also flied out to right. One ball, 1 strike. You mentioned it last night. You've got a big guy at the plate, so you would figure 6'5". There's going to be a lot of gaps in that swing. His rookie year, though, Ricky, he was a guy that was very disciplined. And talking about Hayward, very short stroke, but last year undisciplined. Many teams got him by pitching inside, pounding the inside portion of the strike zone, and the swing got a little bit longer. This game is hard, isn't it?
It is very hard.
He has tied his career high with 5 walks issued tonight.
Over 100 pitches.
.280 with runners in scoring position. So again, for the fan at home, what are you seeing with Wainwright maybe mechanically with some of these pitches?
Well, that's the curveball again that's just not sharp. He's just missing. He's not pulling it down straight at the catcher. He's leaving it out on the inside half to a right-hander, away to a left-hander. And it's just a matter of release point for him. It's not sharp. That's better.
Strikeout of Hayward.
And honestly, that's about release point. And the release point is a simple thing to talk about, but really hard to master because of the slight difference between releasing the ball, I'm going to say, a 1/16 of an inch a different spot, whether you're on the side of it or maybe behind it a little bit as opposed to pulling it down in front of you. And it's just a feel thing, and you just have to, it's like throwing a dart and realizing when you throw a dart, what adjustment do you have to make? How do you explain that? You really can't. It's just a feel. And when a pitcher loses his feel, then you're just struggling trying to hope something good happens.
Pasternicki has grounded out and walked. I'm sure part of the thinking, Mike Matheny, is that you're in the bottom of this lineup, a chance to get out of it. The pitcher spot on deck.
A lot of times with that release point, Dan, it has something to do, or can have something to do with what you're doing with your lower half. If your lower half gets out too fast, your arm drags and you can't get the release point out in front of you.
1 ball, 1 strike. Wainwright, by the way, due up 3rd for the Cardinals in the home half of the 5th, trying to keep this a 3-run lead for Atlanta.
I love Adam Wainwright, but that was not a quality pitch right there. That was a fastball right down central. No movement.
Slowly hit. Freeze. Bare hands to first. No play. Run scores. Base hit. 4-0 Atlanta. Four of the 5 have reached against Wainwright here in the top of the 5th. For some of the most thrilling semifinal matches in history, Fox Sports proud to bring you exclusive live coverage of the UEFA Champions League Final. UEFA Champions League Final next Saturday at 1, only on Fox.
Bayern Munich or Chelsea, Dan? Which one?
I've been so, well, just pouring into my notes here with the Braves and Cardinals. I haven't had a chance to take it all in, but
Good
I'm sure
answer.
you could break it down.
Chelsea.
Uh-oh, that's trouble. Base hit into right for the pitcher, Brandon Beachy. Run scores. 5-0 Atlanta.
That
And
should
I'm
be
sure,
enough.
yep, here comes Mike Matheny.
Mike Matheny makes his way to the mound. This was just not Adam Wainwright's night. 9 hits for Atlanta. Cardinals trail. Here comes Fernando Salas. Cap courtesy of U.S. Cellular, the official wireless provider of the St. Louis Cardinals. 25,000 fans ages 16 and older will receive the adult cap at the Saturday, May 26 Cardinals versus the Phillies game. Visit Cardinals.com to purchase your tickets. Our Mid-America Chevy dealer call to the bullpen is the right-hander Fernando Salas. Cardinals need some spirit tonight, and they need some offense. Brandon Beachy has pitched very well, just 1 Cardinal hit, and Adam Wainwright, not a good night for him. Responsible for 3 more Atlanta runners. Tough situation for Salas, and they need some innings out of him as well, as we've talked about the Cardinals bullpen being somewhat depleted after last night. There's the situation. Jones, Pasternicki, and Beachy aboard. A couple of hits and a walk. And Salas and Michael Bourne the batter. Cardinals hoping for a double play, but you're not going to get very many against this guy. He runs extremely well. Michael Bourne is 1 for 3, singled and scored in the first.
5-run lead with the bases loaded, and chance now for Salas to get out of this jam and maybe improve his standing with the club. And
he's been getting better.
Yes, he has. And you think about where he was this time last year, starting to emerge as the Cardinals closer and getting chances in place of Ryan Franklin.
You know, for a pitcher to be competing against the best hitters in the world and you don't have all your weapons, it's a very tough task. Salas has not had all of his weapons. Off-speed pitches he hasn't quite had the feel of. Wainwright, of course, doesn't have all of his weapons back yet, 100%, and he didn't have them tonight for sure. And you just got to find a way to get outs with your B stuff or your C stuff.
And Mike Matheny is hoping that he can extend maybe this outing by Salas and save the bullpen. 2-2, and he waves at it.
Off-speed pitch from Salas. He has an outstanding changeup, and there it is. Bourne somehow thinks that's a fastball and did not pick up the change of speed, so thought that ball might be on the corner. Just kept falling away from him. Salas had the ability to strike hitters out last year too, Dan. Not an overpowering fastball, but knew how to pick up strikeouts.
Here's Martin Prado with 2 outs, bases loaded. Shoots one foul out of play. Well, you just feel for Wainwright right now, because he's gone from a guy that is considered and has been one of the most dominant pitchers in Major League Baseball to right now just really just trying to search and find it, get back to where he was. At times you see flashes of it.
Yep.
And I'm sure he would tell you the last 2 starts probably felt like progress for him, and then maybe a little step backward tonight.
2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's probably a good way to explain it. And he's a guy that everybody roots for. You know Adam Wainwright, you love him.
Yep. Here's the 0-2 pitch with 2 outs, bases loaded, and a foul ball. Prado tonight singled and scored in the first, and flied to right, also flied out to left.
Watch out. That's that release point problem we were talking about. Although that one was a little bit more than a 1/4 of an inch or a 1/16 of an inch off. Way behind him, he releases it, just kind of squirts out of his hand.
One-two is hit to short for Kyle. Flip to Green. Braves pick up 2 more midway through 5. They lead it 5-0. Cardinals baseball is brought to you by AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T, rethink possible. By O'Charlie's, 2 for $20, 1 appetizer, 2 entrees, just $20 only at O'Charlie's. And by the state of Missouri, tobacco quit line, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. Look at the Champions Club here at Busch Stadium. You can get your picture taken with the World Series trophies dating back to 1967 that the Cardinals have won. 67, 82, 2006, and most recently a season ago. Very neat aspect, new aspect of the Champions Club.
Fantastic displays there, and as John Mozeliak and Bill DeWitt love to say, there's one more kind of pylon in there, and there's a kind of an open place to put in another World Series trophy just in case there's a need.
The UMB Champions Club will be there for our broadcast when the White Sox and interleague play come to town. It'll be June 13th. June 13th at the Champions Club. Starting to get hot here in St. Louis, and that is the place to be, the UMB Champions Club. Here's a 2-1 pitch on the outside corner, 2-2. Wainwright 4 1/3, 5 runs, 9 hits, walked 5, tying his career high. Also 5 strikeouts, 108 pitches. 68 were strikes. Jay, the foul ball.
Struggles of Adam Wainwright have been clear, but you also have to be impressed with what's going on the other side with Brandon Beachy. He has had the Cardinals off balance. He's shown a good fastball. Really has been in command from the onset. And there's a high fastball by John Jay, a strikeout victim for the second time. We mentioned John Jay does not strike out very much.
Back at it again tomorrow, the David Freese bobblehead. If you can't join us here at the ballpark, join us on Fox Sports Midwest. Our Budweiser What's on Tap. Hansen, the right-hander, against Lance Lynn. Lynn 6-0 this season. Here's Green with one out. Remember the last start for Lance Lynn. He did not go very deep in the game against Arizona. Big lead. Cardinals nearly coughed it up, but they won the game. Salas is on deck, and as we've talked about, bullpen is thin tonight, so some nights you may see a pinch hitter, but not in this spot. You need outs and innings from Salas.
So we are probably looking at his second major league at bat. So when you only have 2 at bats in your young career, you probably don't even own a bat. Why does he need one?
Who wants it? Over the shoulder, Freddie Freeman. It's a tough play. Anytime I see that over the shoulder catch, I think of Terry Pendleton.
I don't think anybody's done it better. Nobody I've seen has done it as well as Terry Pendleton. This was a little awkward, in fact, but made the play. Almost got tied up. Our Hyundai Foxmo.
Those guys were part of your 80s teams, Ricky, but you think of that infield. Tommy Hurd second, Ozzie the Gold Glover and Hall of Famer at short, and Terry Pendleton, what a job he did. The carpet, the old Busch Stadium.
Well, to play third base on the carpet, you have to be quick, and that's exactly what Terry Pendleton was. Any hard hit ground ball, not that I ever saw a pitcher give up one of those in my tenure, but actually I saw a lot of those up close and personal. Terry just had incredibly quick hands, and could go to either his left or his right. You really don't think of him as a guy charging the ball like, say, Scott Rowland on bunts. That wasn't really his forte. But that fly ball over his head, you mentioned, down the line, any pop fly, he was just outstanding at running it down, running to the right spot, catching it over his shoulder. And he could hit.
Yes, he could. One ball and 2 strikes on Fernando Salas. His swing was pretty good.
It was.
Right down the middle, strikeout. And we played 5 on this Saturday night here at Busch Stadium. The bats have been quiet. 5-zip Braves. 2 hours prior to our first pitch here at the ballpark. Every Sunday, North Star Ice Cream Sundays. Frozen treats, prizes out in the Ford Plaza. And you can visit Cardinals.com.
Chris Lee, outstanding photographer. In fact, I think the photo I was speaking of the other day, and I may be wrong about that, but he's taken so many of the good photos. The one of David Eckstein hitting the grand slam at home plate, I believe that was one of his photos. I know that he took the one of Stan Musial and Albert Pujols that has become quite famous, so he just does a great job. Been around a long time, too.
Here's Freddie Freeman, 1-0 pitch.
With the struggles of Adam Wainwright, this feels like a 12-0 Brave lead. Braves have stranded 9 runners, and at least some part of the Braves psyche is that really all we have? It's 5 runs against Wainwright. Credit Salas for coming in, getting out of a bases loaded situation to help out Wainwright, give his team a chance to win this. But 3 times they've stranded the bases loaded through 5 innings.
It's taken low, and a leadoff walk by Freddie Freeman, the first baseman of the Atlanta Braves. Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Dan, Rick, and Jim with you here on Fox Sports Midwest. It's also a little bit of a carryover from last night too, Rick, where you had chances to win. You didn't do it late. You came back in that game. And Wainwright tonight, 4 1/3, and now it's Uggla.
You just knew David Freese was going to make something happen, didn't you, last night?
You really felt that way.
I mean, it's like just too storybook for it not to happen.
Fourth of July last year, Dan Uggla was hitting 173. Something that Uggla focused on this spring training. He's been through a bunch, but he said he changed his routine in the fact that in spring training many times he would take pitch after pitch after pitch just to get timing, just to see more pitches. He changed that, he said, this year to where if he got a pitch to hit, he went hacking. And he said maybe the best way to get my timing is to let it rip, and it's paid dividends. But you do hear that all the time about guys in spring training that will, at the plate, take more pitches
just to get the timing, just to see more things. That's right. Well, you can almost develop a defensiveness when you do that, and that's true during the season, not just spring training.
Been on base every time tonight, 2-2.
You can see it all you want, and vision does matter for a hitter, and timing does matter, but you still have to know what that timing does once you swing the bat. And he's a little late on that pitch, good location, so he could see that pitch and say, okay, I saw it all the way. Well, how do I get my bat to the right spot? That feel becomes part of what it means to hit at this level.
Strikeout of Uggla. Second of the night for Salas in relief of Wainwright. First time that Uggla's been retired.
That was either a fastball that he took something off of or too hard of a changeup, but it did have good movement at 87 miles an hour.
A strike to McCann.
Fastball at 92.
He reacts to his previous at bat, which he looked to be injured and sprained his ankle, but he was able to go behind the plate. I always think about if you win the series and you're on the road, would you give McCann then the day off tomorrow? Wrapping up a 10-day road trip for the Atlanta Braves.
Especially with the fact that he turned his ankle
1-1 pitch to McCann.
One lost detail on game 1 of this series was what Livan Hernandez did coming out of the Braves bullpen. Escaping jams.
Yes. Popped up to the left side. Freeze backing up. Makes the catch. AT&T trivia question. What team did Tony La Russa play his final Major League game for? AT&T trivia question. 1973 with the Chicago Cubs. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
I'd forgotten that. You know, when you think of Tony La Russa, you just don't think playing career. It's all about what he's done as a manager in baseball.
Well,
more times than not.
Yeah, and he belittled it a lot when he talked about his playing days. He was 199 career batter, so I guess he would point to that. But he was a young shortstop playing in the big leagues. He was a high draft choice, bonus baby. And for whatever reason, I think there was a rule at the time. If you were given a certain amount of money as a bonus baby, you had to spend time in the big leagues. And you know, probably some of those players that they did that to, they probably ruined their development. Probably wasn't the best thing for him. He might have been a better player had they let him work his way up through the minor league system.
I wonder if the temptation was there for Chipper to stay with the Atlanta Braves, to think about 500 home runs or eventually getting to 3,000 hits. Not too far away. He strikes out here. Midway through 6. Cardinals trail. They only have 1 hit. 5-0. Reverse recap. Wainwright, the story tonight with the 5 walks, 9 hits allowed, 4 1/3. Beachy 5 innings, and McCann a couple of RBIs. Added up to a 5-run lead, and those two have been on the same page since the early goings of this game.
Cardinals haven't figured him out yet. Beachy has shown the good fastball. The off-speed pitches have worked too, and the Cardinals just seem to be 0-2 every at-bat.
This is what he's made that conscious effort to do. Pitch ahead in the count, sacrifice the strikeouts to go deeper into games, and he has done that this evening. 0-2 on Furcal.
You would think that wouldn't be a hard sell on a young pitcher, Dan, but some guys get to the big leagues and they're just in love with the strikeout, and they're in love with just rearing back and throwing as hard as you can on every single pitch. And give him some credit for being teachable.
Beachy took to the mound 25 times last year. Won only 7. He lost 3. He led the major leagues in no decisions. He had 15 of them. Upstairs, 2-2 on Furcal. Liner out to left and a base hit. As we've seen, Rick, the Cardinals offense, we started the telecast by telling folks about their power. But as far as average is concerned, they are #1, and this is in May and this month among everybody in the league, not just the National League.
And that's following a good April, too. They've been running the bases well, 4th in stolen bases since the calendar turned, but the home runs have really been the big story to me. Get you back in ball games. They need one. How about back-to-back again? We've seen that a number of times.
5 times this year, including last night. Beltran 0 for 2. His average now back above 300. Furcal read that perfectly and winds up at second base. No hesitation whatsoever.
Very impressive what Furcal does here. He reads it right away. Nobody can tell you. You've got to see it, and you've got to react. If you wait for the coach to say go, if you wait for the batter to say go, there's his secondary lead. He sees it in the dirt. And the Cardinals have been teaching that for years. Just the ball's in the dirt, 99 times out of 100, you're going to make it.
3-0. From a national perspective, a lot of the writers and broadcasters look at Beltran being the replacement for Albert Pujols in this lineup. And it is shocking the lack of production, what's happening right now for Albert. 3-0 here on Beltran. And that's ball 4. Single and a walk. Pitch count at 85 for Brandon Beachy. They start to stir in the bullpen of the Atlanta Braves.
Now you find out a little bit more about Brandon Beachy. He has some stress on him. We've talked about how good the Cardinals have hit in the month of May and really all season. He's well aware of that, Dan. He knows what Matt Holliday's capable of doing, and now you're going to see a guy who has to pitch under a little bit more stress.
Matt has flied to left. He's also flied to right.
And it really doesn't get much easier when you have Craig and Freese to follow. You always have the potential for a big inning.
Outfield very deep for Holliday. The first 2 have reached. 2-0.
All of a sudden not finishing his breaking pitch, and it's just kind of hanging up in the top of the strike zone. And if he makes a little bit of an adjustment, he's going to hang it at a lower level and get hurt by it.
Makes you think that in the back of his mind, Beachy, he knows his personal goal, which is to go deeper into games. But all of a sudden, as you mentioned, you get problems like this, and here we go again. Nowhere close, and that's ball 4. Bases loaded for Craig. 4th walk by Beachy. McDowell got on the bullpen phone very quickly. He'll trot out and visit with his young right-hander, Roger McDowell.
Always interesting to see Roger McDowell and Terry Pendleton on the same coaching staff after that wonderful moment in New York with Terry Pendleton taking
one of the greatest home runs ever. Friday night at Shea Stadium in a weekend series against the Mets.
I know right where I was sitting.
You have seen some famous home runs.
I was in the bullpen. In fact, I thought the game was going to end. I was packing up my stuff. I'm thinking, okay,
nice teammate.
Well, I love you, Terry, but McDowell's pretty tough, and thought it might be over, and what a great moment that was.
Inning started with a base hit by Furcal. Beltran and Holiday back-to-back walks. Nobody out.
So
Alan Craig, the hitter.
Dan Beachy in the minor league numbers, all of his numbers, 1 walk every 4 innings. So he's a guy that throws strikes too. So to see him and Wainwright both have command problems, very odd.
First pitch to Craig is a strike. Allen tonight getting the start at first base. Cardinals are hoping that Berkman would be available tomorrow. Craig has struck out in the second and singled. First base hit of the night for the Cardinals in the 4th. Cardinals have been out hit in this game 9-2. Oh, 2.
Two breaking pitches to start off Alan Craig.
Wainwright, it took him 108 pitches for just 13 outs. 5-0 lead for Atlanta. Craig could change that. The 1-2 pitch. 2-2.
Really getting underneath that breaking ball, and it's almost like he's pushing it instead of being on top. A lot of times, again, you rush with your lower half of your body. 93 pitches now for Beachy may have something to do with that. Your lower body starts to rush out, your arm drags, and you end up underneath the baseball. And it, again, that's a hanging breaking ball is a pretty easy pitch to hit.
The 2-2. Craig lifts it out to left. The power tag up. The Cardinals will get on the board. Alan Craig with the RBI. That's his 13th, and it's 5-1. Runners in first and second, 1 down. David Freese, the hitter. Our email the booth question brought to you by carsoup.com. This is for Rick. How much effect did a manager have on the quality of teams you played on?
I think that's a great question. I think folks will look at what the manager does in terms of his decision and say managers really don't matter much. You decide what pitcher to bring in, whether to bunt or not. But there's a leadership factor to me that's extraordinarily important. And having played for Tommy Lasorda, Whitey Herzog, Jim Fregosi, really good baseball guys, I know the kind of difference they could make in the course of a game. And Whitey would give you a 5-game lead just because he was your guy.
You believe that the hardest part of managing now, this era of baseball, 2 things: dealing with the media, as much as it's a prevalent part of it, but also just managing the personalities.
You have very confident, and probably it's always been true about baseball players, very individualistic, confident people that you have to manage along with your coaching staff.
So many factors when you think about the individual, where they're from, how many years in the game, money that they've made, status in the game. 1 ball, 1 strike.
In their personality. You may talk to Adam Wainwright about his outing differently than you talk to Jaime Garcia about his. Different level of maybe the tone of your voice, expectation, how harsh you may be.
Chance here for David Freese. 2 balls and a strike with runners at first and second. Big gap in left center. Freeze bounces it to short. Double play ball. 6-4-3 on the double play. This time Uggla is able to turn it. Cardinals only manage a run, and it's 5-1. Next homestand, Phillies will be in town for 4. First 25,000 fans ages 16 and older take home the network bag. Cardinals.com/promotions to find out more. Third inning of work here for Fernando Salas. Cardinals may have just let Beachy and the Braves here in Game 2 off the hook.
Exciting inning, but disappointing outcome. Hope for at least a crooked number of some sort, a 2-spot, maybe 3 runs that make it feel like it's closer. I still think the Braves on their heels a bit, though, with all the runners that they've stranded.
It's 10 on the night. Cardinals have stranded 4. Braves have out hit St. Louis 9-2. You're just joining us. Adam Wainwright 4 1/3 tonight. 5 runs, 9 hits. And Salas in relief of the right-hander. We're on the air tomorrow at 12:30. Lance Lynn trying to pick up his 7th win of the year. Atlanta has just done a remarkable job with all the championships that they had under Bobby Cox. Only 1 World Series championship, but division titles. Changing the landscape of baseball in the South as far as professional players. I mean, there's always good players because of the weather, but the kids that followed the Atlanta Braves, it is just player after player you see drafted out of Georgia. It's amazing.
Well, at the youth sports league level, and we've known people throughout the years that have taken big teams down to Orlando. They have the big tournaments there. You don't want to play the teams from Atlanta. Nobody does. They just have one good team after another, and really it's become a hotbed for not only college athletics but for professional sports as well.
Hayward, one of those guys too. He was from Henry County High School, which was just a few miles south of Turner Field. We've gone by that a couple of times when we've been there.
Jake Westbrook, Mitchell Boggs, Adam Wainwright.
McCann is from that area. Jeff Francoeur. I mean, there are just a ton of players that are coming out of that area that followed the Braves and followed those championships. There's Mitchell Boggs on the right, and the St. Louis and Kyle McClellan there on the left, who took the loss last night, gave up the home run to Hayward. One ball, one strike on Tyler Pastornicki. know, Furcal was asked about making the jump from A-ball to the major leagues, and he did this with the Atlanta Braves. Pasternicki is a guy that spent a little time at AAA, not much. And you've talked about the other prospect that they have that would have made that jump from A-ball to the big leagues. And Rafael Furcal said the game doesn't change. In his mind, you can either play it or you can't at this level. And he said, if I'm going out aggressive.
I do think it's a little easier for a player from the Dominican or from Puerto Rico who is playing winter ball against big league players every offseason to get a little extra experience to be able to make that jump a little easier. He's probably getting the opportunity playing in that Dominican Winter League, and you can advance quickly with that kind of experience. We've seen it happen before.
Craig puts it away for out number 2. This has to be a confidence builder right now for Salas.
Doing a nice job.
Beautiful night here at Busch Stadium in St. Louis, 40,000 plus. That'll be it for Brandon Beachy and a pinch hitter for Freddie Gonzalez, and this is Juan Francisco, former Cincinnati Red, was picked up right before first pitch of the season. We saw him pinch hit last night. And there's 2 outs and nobody on, and strike 1. Cardinals will have Molina, Jay, and Green coming up. And Rick, this may have been just what Salas needed. Work out the kinks a little bit.
And sometimes throwing the extra innings actually helps with that, because you get the confidence going. You can't wait to get back out there and do it again.
It's popped up, and Freese has it. Time to stretch, and it's 5-1. Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. And by Taco Bell. Live Moss. Forest Park in St. Louis. Very close to downtown and Busch Stadium. The background there, you can see the world famous art museum.
I never run into you there, Dan, when I go.
You will, though, and I mean this sincerely, see Al.
I'm not surprised.
Collector of art, Al Raboski.
Now, there's some pretty expensive art, I would say, at the art museum. He knows that, right?
Yes, he does.
Okay, just checking.
You'll also find him at the zoo. And I mean that sincerely, too.
I have so many things to say, and I'm not. I think I'll just leave them all lie.
Ooh, a hot shot right to first, and Molina is retired. Yachty wearing the uniform so many times that Brendan Ryan wore the uniform that way with the stirrup up. And you were reading an interesting quote about good old Brendan Ryan, the former shortstop of the Cardinals today.
Came from his manager, Eric Wedge, who said that Brendan, who's really struggling, his batting average is under 150 now. He said he needed a day off, and I needed a day off from watching him, which I just thought was a pretty funny thing for a manager to say.
Might have been just a day off from him.
Yeah.
Not just watching him, just him.
Brendan brings a lot of passion and energy and a lot of
other things,
craziness, but a lot of ability to play the defensive position of shortstop, but he's just not hitting right now in the American League. And there's a lot of guys around baseball that aren't hitting, and we focused on Albert, and we look at the former Cardinals, but Batista batting under 200. Eric Hosmer's having a rough start with Kansas City. Scott Rowland just went on the disabled list. He's under 200. Ricky Weeks also off to a very bad start and also got hurt.
Milwaukee is in serious trouble right now, even though it's early, but all the injuries that they are dealing with. Gonzalez, their shortstop, the former Brave, is done for the year. And now you have Weeks, who's going to miss time too. Gamble, another one, done for the year. And also dealing with a sore Achilles is reigning MVP Ryan Braun.
Ramos Ramirez, another one of those players off to a poor start offensively. And I just wonder if they wish they had Casey McGee back.
They picked up Veras, the reliever from Pittsburgh, but hasn't been a difference maker. High fly ball in right. Hayward is there, and quickly 2 down.
Milwaukee has actually dropped below Houston, and the standings, of course, don't matter right now at this point. But Houston, a bit of a surprise. They're just 2 games under 500. Milwaukee now 4 games under 500. Cincinnati is the only other team in the Central over 500. Go with the Cardinals.
Another sold-out crowd tonight. Been quiet, not much to cheer for. Only 2 hits. Over 44,000, the 6th sellout of the year. See the fans, it's standing room only. Just beyond the bullpen and right. Also down the left field line, and some of the standing room only sections here at the ballpark. Two and 2 the count. Green waves at it. It's a strikeout. And we have played 7 here at Busch Stadium. 5-1 Atlanta. lead for the Braves as we move to the 8th here at Busch Stadium. Cardinals baseball on Fox Midwest, and let's head to our studio with this Bommarito Sports Update. All right, thank you. Here's J.C. Romero. And this year, 10 games and the high ERA. Roughed up last time out against Arizona. That was the game that Lance Lynn started. They turned it over to Romero. And quickly, and I mean quickly, things turned poorly for Romero and the Cardinals. They nearly lost that game.
Yeah, and Dan, we've talked about how some of the right-handers in the Cardinal bullpen are good at getting lefties out, but I still think every club in baseball needs 2 lefties in the bullpen, and the Cardinals need Romero to get better. There's no doubt about it. There's not a lot of other kind of plan Bs right now at AAA, left-handers that are other options, and Romero's had some big seasons in his past. Been around for a while, but just needs to get better.
Descalso, part of a double switch, takes over at second base. First pitch and a high fly ball into deep right. That won't help. It's a home run. Michael Bourne. That is his first of the year.
Pitch in the middle of the plate. Michael Bourne, not a guy you think about having power capacity. There's the delivery. Bourne, about a homer a year in his career. And he just had one.
And Rick, this is the kind of game that you would hope that Romero maybe gets you the final 6 outs, saves everybody else in that bullpen, but he's got to be able to get people out too. That's the part of it that you have to have happen.
And he's already working on the negative that you talked about in terms of his last outing, and he actually had 5 or 6 outings where they were all scoreless to start the season, so he had a good start after a bad spring. And you know, he's trying to overcome that last outing right now and hoping that something good would happen. Then the first pitch he throws a home run. I'm telling you, it gets very stressful to be standing on the mound knowing that you've got to figure out another way.
Home run by Bourne, his first and his second hit in this game. Prado is 1 for 5, and now Freddie Freeman.
Maybe more disconcerting, Dan, is Romero's job specifically to get lefties out.
Right. Freeman has lined out, grounded out, and a pair of walks. Uggla on deck. Descalso backhands it, makes the play. 2 outs. Brings in Uggla with 2 down. It's our Nissan drive of the game. Michael Bourne with his first home run of 2012. Dan Uggla. One ball, 1 strike. You look at the body of a guy like Dan Uggla. Doesn't quite remind you of a Tommy Herr.
No.
But yet he's a second baseman. and he can destroy the baseball.
It's funny the way bodies change over time, though. I remember watching Cal Ripken play shortstop for the first time, and I thought, wow, I've never seen a shortstop that tall before. And, you know, I thought of all shortstops as being guys that were incapable of going deep. And now you've got a guy like Tulowitzki, who has as much power as anybody in that Rockies lineup.
And it really just taken even a little bit before then. The big three in the American League. You had Derek Jeter, A-Rod when he was a shortstop, and Garcia Parra. Guys that hit for power, average. They had range. They ran. 2-2 the count on Uggla. Uggla reported in at 225 spring training. Said he lifted with his brother all off season. Franklin, Tennessee, which is Cardinals country.
All the ropes that he's hit in this series, I'm still just trying to get rid of that mental picture of him hugging Jason Hayward. Those guys just must be buddies. It was just kind of a funny shot.
Walk issued by Romero. In steps McCann. McCann has been on base 3 times, and those Atlanta fans are happy with what they've seen so far here in St. Louis. And we have our own Brian McCann, who works in the truck. Our Brian went to this Brian, asked for an autographed jersey, and Brian McCann was this one. Happy to oblige.
I would hope so.
And our Brian McCann gave him a VHS tape autographed. Back to Romero, the broken bat, and the Braves have added to their lead with a home run by Bourne. It's 6-1. Not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cardinals. Well, this is one guy, Rick, you'd like to see get back on track at the plate. Tough to do as a role player. You don't get many at bats. They're sparse, but it's Daniel Descalso. His role last year was defined in the fact that you'd see him as your backup third baseman late innings.
This is going to help.
That ball is bobbled just a bit. And Descalso, hustling all the way, hesitated at second base, saw that it was mishandled, and takes third. He needed that.
He really did. You could see the frustration growing in his mannerisms and his face and his body language, and this is going to help you get to run out some of that frustration. Hit a ball in the gap and take off, and it's bobbled a bit. It should be a double and an error. It may give him a triple, but right out of the box, he's flying, and he's enjoying this feeling as opposed to the walk back to the bench that he's been taking the last couple weeks.
And he can be such a valuable piece to this team as a backup shortstop to play second base. We know he can do third base defensively quite well. Furcal has been on base twice tonight. He lines it into center field, and that's a base hit. RBI for Rafael Furcal. 2-hit night. His hitting streak, by the way, now at 11.
Furcal, a hit machine. Gets his hits in bunches. Descalso, who I believe they ruled hit a triple, not a double and an error. The Braves still have just one error on the scoreboard here. Cardinals now just trail by 4. Wouldn't this be something?
First error was the ball thrown by Uggla on the potential double play. Strike 2 on Carlos Beltran.
Very happy for Daniel Descalso.
Sharply to first, out at second, back to first. It's a double play. Beltran hits into some tough luck. 3-6-3 on the double play, and Atlanta should have turned already 3 tonight. They've turned 2.
And that's one of the tougher ones to turn, and a couple feet more in that hole, and it's a first and third situation. He comes off the bag, quick hands. And you have to throw that ball over the runner and then get back to the bag. A lot of moving parts for Freddie Freeman.
A strike at the knees.
Looked very promising off the bat, didn't it, Dan?
Sure did. Unfortunately, he's holding him, as you mentioned, and turns into the double play. One ball, one strike. Looking ahead to the 9th inning, Chipper Jones is due up first, then Hayward and Pasternicki. Something to think about from Freddie Gonzalez's perspective is the right time to pull a Chipper Jones, especially when you're on the road. And you want to give these fans their due to see one of the great players come through town one last time.
Might have to come back tomorrow.
We'll talk about that when we come back. Chipper due up first.
At the Busch Stadium. Coming up after the game on the post-game edition of Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live. Pat Paris and Lil Dunk standing by. They'll break down Wayno's night. Player reaction from the Cardinal clubhouse, and better late than never, the best of Tony TV. I probably will get yelled at a couple times in that. Mike Matheny's guys have their work cut out for them. We go back to the booth, and Dan and Rick, guys.
It's not probably, it's definitely. Chipper hits one foul. Didn't look very comfortable with that swing, and he hurt himself.
He got hurt hitting from the left side earlier in this game. He lined the ball off his instep on his right foot, might have hit his ankle, and he had some pain, had to walk that one off. And now I think hitting this ball off the end of the bat may have done something with his hands. Get one more look at it. He's right there on the barrel of the bat, off the end. Can't tell. His right hand came off the bat.
Rick, we were talking about with Gonzalez, and now he's shaking that right hand. But from a manager's perspective, the time to sit a player, when's the right time to do it? Making his farewell tour. Not an easy thing to do. Would you agree?
I would agree, and I would say you'd have to have some input from the player, more than you normally would. Because this kind of bigger than, I mean, it's not bigger than the game. The game is the game, and it's what matters that night. But when you're trying to honor somebody in their career, you have to be aware of what that means to the fans and to the player himself.
Would this be tonight the last time that we see Chipper in St. Louis if he wouldn't play tomorrow?
Has something to say to Romero, joking with him as he runs by him, and could be. Outstanding player.
You know, we talk about it a lot, and they are just few and far between. You know, the guys that have been around as long as Chipper has and doing it with just one franchise. Mariano Rivera and Derek Jeter at 17 years, Chipper at 20. Now Hayward, the 0-1 pitch. Chipper's had a lot of say into the swing of young man at the plate, Hayward. Sometimes there's too many cooks in the kitchen, too much advice.
Oh boy. High fastball from Romero, top of the zone. And now they're going to talk to Romero after that pitch. Looking at the area where he landed as if something might have caught. Conversation. Obviously Yachty saw something and called out the trainer, Greg Houck. Let him throw a couple of pitches. All's well.
Two and two. Rick, you look at the numbers of Romero. They were just outstanding a couple of years ago. It's the second bat that he's broken tonight.
That's no fun when you're pitching too and you're struggling to begin with. Now you got to deal with the bat coming at you. Finish the follow through. You're waiting to field the ball, and now I got to get out of the way of the bat.
Two. Strikeout of Hayward. Stands so far off the plate now, you'd think you'd have some success on that outside portion.
Sure does. And a pretty good comeback for Romero. Good to see.
Pasternicki with a base hit into right. We are at Busch Stadium in St. Louis, home of the Cardinals. Fox Sports Midwest. Dan, Rick, and Jim with you. Al is standing by with Pat Paris for the postgame show. And Chris Duncan will also be part of that postgame show as well. Medlin, 2 innings pitched for Atlanta. A couple of bright spots tonight for the Cardinals, Rick. You think about the base hit for Descalso and also Salas.
Salas definitely sticks out. Both guys struggling a bit, and this is the way the baseball is. You can be struggling one moment, all of a sudden get a hit, get back on track again. Busy inning for Romero. Had to dodge the bat. Now he tries to catch the ball, and just a little bit too hard hit up the middle. Not able to come up with it. And here's the lefty he needs to get. I would say if Romero gets this left-hander out, he can kind of say, you know what, this outing was okay. Not great, but it was okay, and it's something to build on. Gave up the home run to Bourne in the 8th inning on the first pitch he threw. 2 innings, 1 run, you can live with that.
Two-0 the count on Michael Bourne. Outfield is straight away and shallow. That's a base hit inside the third base line. A run will score. It's now 7-2. Bourne is in with a double and an RBI. He's had a heck of a series.
Sure has. Slaps it past Freeze. 3 hits in this game, single, double, and a home run. He's shown his typical range in center field.
Made a great catch early on. Took an RBI and an extra base hit away. Martin Prado. Atlanta's out hit the Cardinals 13-4. 7-2 here in the top of the 9th. little bouncer to the right side. And Romero is at the bag. Final hope coming up. It's 7-2. Pitches, 6 innings, couple of hits, walks 4, strikes out 6. He is our Budweiser player of the game, and the Cardinals at one point looked like they had him on the ropes, and he was able to escape.
Yeah, a couple of times the Cardinals tried to claw their way back into this game, but a couple of runs late has stretched the lead to 5. So not impossible, but a difficult task here in the bottom of the 9th. Our Mid-America Chevy dealers call to the bullpen is the right-hander Christian Martinez. We saw him pitch an inning, a scoreless inning here last night. And there's his numbers, 2.81 ERA. And the Cardinals will have Craig, Freese, and Molina, and hopefully more in the 9th. You just see and just feel, Dan, the Cardinals trying to gain some momentum late in this game, in the middle of this game and then towards the end, as if, yeah, maybe there's a chance. Some missed opportunities for the Braves. They've stranded 13. Yet the Cardinals just couldn't come up with that big hit when they needed it, or enough of it.
Cardinals are hoping to activate Berkman, as Jim said, maybe as soon as tomorrow. So some movement with this roster upcoming. It's been nearly a month that Berkman's been out. Martinez was claimed off of waivers from the Florida Marlins early April of last season. One ball, one strike.
So Mike Matheny will have a difficult decision to make, and actually other difficult decisions to make that will follow. First, what player goes out when Berkman comes back, and then secondly, who plays and who doesn't. Cardinals sweeping the Diamondbacks. Certainly don't want to start thinking about that word when it comes to this series with the Atlanta Braves at home. But Atlanta looks very tough right now. And Tommy Hansen's a good pitcher. He'll pitch the final game of the series on Mother's Day tomorrow. Can't think of a more perfect Mother's Day gift. Taking mom out to the ballpark.
Strikeout of Craig.
Craig thought he was a base runner. close. Martinez gets the call. Strikeouts piling up in this game for St. Louis. That's number 8. Two and two. Strike zone seems a bit bigger. Oh yeah, bottom of the 9th.
Two pitch to David Freese. Pair of strikeouts for Martinez. Yadier Molina, the final hope.
Martinez with a nasty little sinker.
Yadier loses his bat to short. One pitch to Molina. Lines it into left field. Extends the ball game with a base hit.
Just not enough to cheer for tonight.
John Jay struck out twice. Flied out to right. 2 outs and a runner at first. They'll play behind Molina. Skip Schumacher has moved to the on-deck circle. And lots of room to the left side. We talked about this last night. How are they defending Craig? Well, or rather Jay. Shortstop towards the bag at second. Chipper Jones well off the line and even with the bag, so room opposite way.
For Call with his 2 hits, now an 11-game hitting streak. John Jay's 0 for 3. He has a modest 6th game, which is going to come to an end right here.
So that's it. The Braves will go for a sweep tomorrow afternoon. They came in as one of the hottest teams in baseball, and they have not disappointed.
Rough night for Adam Wainwright. That's really where it began. He was not his normal sharp self, what we've seen in the month of May, and the Braves are taking it to the Cardinals here, at least so far in this series, winning the first 2.
Atlanta wins it 7-2. Wainwright is now 2-4. Don't go away. The Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live postgame show. It comes your way next.